Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
A wrestling star has called his infamous segment with Roman Reigns and WWE the worst. Reigns has come into his own since adopting the Tribal Chief gimmick. However, his earlier run as the babyface Big Dog had a lot of over-the-top angles. One such angle involved him in a feud with former WWE star Bishop Dyer, FKA Baron Corbin. In 2019, on an episode of SmackDown, the erstwhile Corbin and Nick Nemeth, FKA Dolph Ziggler, handcuffed Reigns to the ring post and poured dog food over him. Roman Reigns would get his receipt back a few weeks later. On January 31, 2020, he teamed up with the Usos to take on Corbin, Ziggler, and Bobby Roode, with the stipulation being that the losing team would have to eat dog food. Roman Reigns' team emerged victorious. The babyfaces later tied the former King Corbin to the ring post, pouring bowls and cans of dog food over him. "They handcuffed me to the post when we did that. They're pouring dog food on me and everything, chili, and whatever else they had in that bowl, and I was hanging, but I was in the handcuffs, but I couldn't get my feet under me because it was so slippery. So, I was literally hanging by the handcuffs. It was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced because it felt like it was getting ready to cut my thumbs off," he said. He then explained that after the show went off air, he was screaming for help. "We talk about Vin Diesel and Triple X, when he's hanging by the handcuffs, I'm like, bro, I'm done. Shoot me, please. That was the worst. I was screaming at the stage people to help me because the show went off the air, and everyone was starting to move. I'm like, somebody pick me up. My thumbs are coming off," he recalled. At Clash in Paris, Roman Reigns took on the Vision's Bronson Reed. The OTC1 came out on top in a slugfest but was brutally attacked by Bron Breakker and the Alcilla after the match. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed took turns beating up Reigns, with the Tribal Thief delivering several tsunamis while the former Universal Champion was tied on a stretcher. WWE later confirmed that Reigns will be out of action indefinitely. This was done to write him off TV, as he will be busy filming for the upcoming live-action Street Fighter movie, where he will star as Akuma. When WWE fans think of Roman Reigns, they often think of dominance, championship reigns, and the aura of the Tribal Chief. But long before Roman Reigns reached the pinnacle of professional wrestling as one of the most dominant champions in history, there were moments in his career that were far from flawless. Every great superstar has growing pains, awkward storylines, or segments they'd rather forget, and one former WWE star recently revealed that a particular segment involving Roman Reigns left them utterly embarrassed, even to the point of wanting the ground to swallow them whole. According to the star, the infamous segment was so poorly executed that they described it with the blunt phrase, "Shoot me please." This revelation has sparked a wave of discussion online, as fans look back on some of WWE's most questionable creative decisions and how even the biggest names, including Roman Reigns, weren't immune to awkward misfires on live television. The segment that went wrong. WWE programming is notorious for live scripts, last-minute rewrites, and unpredictable crowd reactions. Even with talented wrestlers, things can quickly go off the rails if the material doesn't connect. The star in question, whose name has been tied to several iconic yet controversial moments, pointed to one specific segment with Roman Reigns that stands out as the absolute worst of their career. They recalled being handed a promo that felt unnatural, forced, and completely out of touch with both their character and the storyline. Worse, it was live on Monday Night Raw, with millions watching around the world. Instead of elevating both performers, the segment dragged on, with awkward pauses, poorly timed lines, and a crowd that seemed more confused than invested. By the time it ended, both wrestlers walked backstage knowing that something had gone terribly wrong. "Shoot me please," the star later joked, reflecting on how embarrassed they felt standing in the ring with Reigns during that infamous moment. Roman Reigns' early struggles on the mic. To understand why this segment flopped, it's important to remember where Roman Reigns was in his career at the time. While he's now one of the most confident talkers in wrestling, Roman's early singles run after the Shield's breakup was riddled with awkward promos. WWE's creative team was eager to make him the next John Cena, positioning him as the company's chosen babyface. However, many of the promos he was given were heavily scripted, unnatural, and filled with cringeworthy lines that didn't match his personality. Fans still recall promos where Reigns said things like "suffering succotash" or cracked out-of-place jokes that fell flat. Even Roman himself has admitted in later interviews that he wasn't comfortable with the material he was given and often just went along with it because that's what WWE wanted. For the star who recently opened up, being stuck in one of those awkward moments with Reigns was career torture. When creative kills the vibe. One of the biggest criticisms of WWE during the mid-2010s was its over-reliance on scripted promos. Unlike the Attitude Era or Ruthless Aggression Era, when stars like The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Eddie Guerrero thrived with a level of creative freedom, Reigns and his peers were handed lines that often sounded robotic. The star described the infamous segment as an example of how WWE creative could sink talent, even when the performers themselves had the skills to deliver something better. "I knew when I read the script that it wasn't going to work," they admitted. "It felt fake, it felt forced, and it wasn't something the audience could connect with. But when you're in that situation, you have no choice but to do it. Standing in the ring with Roman that night, I wanted to disappear. It was the worst." Fans haven't forgotten. Wrestling fans have long memories, and once an embarrassing segment airs, it lives forever online. Clips of Roman Reigns' early promo struggles have been circulated on YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok for years. Some fans laugh about them, others criticize WWE's booking, and many agree that they nearly derailed Reigns' career before he was repackaged as the Tribal Chief. The star's candid confession about hating that moment only reignites fan discussions about how much WWE wasted talent during that era by forcing them into unnatural roles. One fan on Reddit recently commented, "Man, you could tell Roman hated that too. Everyone in the ring looked like they wanted to leave. Classic example of WWE writing ruining good wrestlers." Another chimed in, "I remember watching that live and thinking, this is painful. Hearing the star say 'shoot me please' makes me realize they felt the same way we did watching." The rebirth of Roman Reigns. The irony of the situation is that Roman Reigns eventually overcame those cringe-worthy years. In 2020, he reinvented himself as the heel Tribal Chief and delivered some of the best promos of his career. No longer shackled by over-scripting, Roman began speaking naturally, drawing from his own personality, and working with Paul Heyman to craft one of the most dominant characters in modern wrestling history. That evolution proves how much of Roman's earlier struggles weren't his fault, but rather the result of poor creative direction. The same could be said for the star who suffered through that worst segment. Sometimes, WWE puts even talented performers in positions where failure is inevitable. Lessons learned from the worst moments. In the end, the star's "shoot me please" remark doesn't come from bitterness but rather from reflection. Bad moments in wrestling are part of the journey, and for both Roman Reigns and the star in question, they ultimately became stronger performers because of them. Every iconic superstar has a low point that fans love to look back on. The Rock was once booed as Rocky Maivia before finding his voice as a cocky heel. John Cena nearly got cut before the Doctor of Thuganomics gimmick saved his career. Roman Reigns endured years of rejection and awkward promos before becoming the Tribal Chief. In professional wrestling, even the worst segments play a role in shaping legends. The phrase "shoot me please" perfectly sums up how awkward and painful WWE's creative missteps can feel, not only for fans but also for the wrestlers forced to perform them. While the star who shared this story will always look back on that Roman Reigns segment as the worst of their career, it also highlights just how much both performers have grown since then. Today, Roman Reigns is one of the most respected stars in wrestling, carrying himself with a presence and confidence that makes it hard to imagine him ever struggling on the mic. But moments like these remind fans that even the biggest stars had to fight through failure before finding their true voice. For the star who once begged for someone to "shoot me please" in the middle of that infamous promo, the embarrassment lives on, but so does the lesson. And in the unpredictable world of WWE, even the worst segments become part of history.